Hi Year 11, it's Mrs. Reed here, and I thought I'd film you just a very quick bit of feedback based on your most recent piece of work on language analysis. I've had quite a lot of work come my way, which is excellent, but I think it's really important to pick up on some of the strengths and some of the areas for improvement before you go on to do your final piece of writing for this unit next week. Now, obviously, we've got our feedback for success. We can talk in more depth on Monday, but for today, I thought it would be useful just to see some examples. So I've chosen some examples of really high quality work. Now, just to talk you through the task, remember this was you analysing one quotation from the article about the Grand National in depth. And the quotation you were given was that one about horses being treated like wind-up toys, with their fragile limbs pushed to and sometimes beyond breaking point. It's been chosen because it's a really good way to identify a writer's viewpoint. It's got a lot of powerful words that we can zoom in on to explore layers of meaning, but finally, it is positioning us as a reader to view the event in a particular way. Now, on the left here, you can see Chloe's response. I've chosen it because she's been very, very thorough in her analysis about the way in which horses are presented to us, how that comparison to toys works. So presenting them as inanimate objects, something with no worth. The idea that they are kind of just being treated like a cheap object or a toy, when in fact they have feelings, that they are living things. The idea that we are then, as a reader, being made to feel guilty about our own contribution towards this form of entertainment. And watching the Grand National means watching the horses suffer. So I think this is a really, really good example to kind of model your own response against. And the same here for Abby's too. I can see, Abby's got a clear understanding of the argument, zooms in on the language, the way that horses are treated cruelly, the idea that they have no power, focusing on the adjective fragile and this idea of them being able to break easily and need to be treated kindly. And finally, that impact on the reader is important, creates sympathy, makes us maybe rethink our own attitude towards horse racing. So again, a really good example. I've got Harvey's here on the left-hand side, another really, really strong example. Through their language choices, the writer presents the horses as a poor choice of entertainment and the suffering they put through. Well, that opening line summarises the argument as a whole, really, and makes it very clear to me that he has thoroughly understood the article that has been read. He then goes on to build a layer of argument through language analysis, again zooming in on the idea of toys, chosen a different word to focus on, and this time looking at the verb pushed. So we can do this, we don't have to all choose the same words in our analysis. And then again, leading us towards the reader's, the impact and the effect on the reader. Yeah, it seems the writer has included this to persuade people that the Grand National is wrong and inhuman. Or you could add an E there and say inhumane. Michael's then is the next piece, and again, it's a really strong answer. Zooming in. In fact, what Michael does particularly well here is he talks about breaking down that simile in the same way that you did with the metaphors before, looking at what the vehicle was, in this case the wind-up toy, in order to show your understanding of it, focusing on the word fragile, and then leading us again towards this idea that we are being positioned then towards viewing horses as, real living animals that should be treated with love and care. So I've chosen these three. Obviously, you can pause the video yourself, you can go back and read back through them, but I've done this for a reason. Some of the responses I'm seeing are very short, and this should be a lengthy piece of writing, even though it's about one quote. Some of you have covered all three areas. In fact, it's worthwhile pointing out here that quite a few more than just the 4 examples I've used, have sent me some really excellent work. So Anthony, Molly, Hannah, for example, really strong pieces. But what I need to see then is that you are thinking all the time about what, how and why. What should be the ideas that the writer presents? Okay, just like I talked to you about there with Harvey's response. This is where you answer the question. You show your more general understanding of what point the writer is making. The how is the majority of your answer. Yeah, it's all of that analysis where you're picking the quotation apart, making inference, perhaps talking about connotation, zooming in on a single word, powerful phrase. This is where you build your own bit of argument and you show your understanding here. Don't forget the why though. I've read some really good responses that tell me what and how, but neglect the reader at the end. And that will actually mean you lose out on some marks. So why might the reader, that's wrong. Why might the writer have made this choice? What is the impact on the reader? And you might want to think of it in this way. How are we positioned to view the event at the end of this? Are we positioned to, as Abby suggests, being made to rethink our own choices about the type of entertainment we use? Are we being positioned to think that actually we are guilty in some way here because we contribute, as Chloe points out, to the running of the Grand National by making those bets? As the writer says, there's no such thing as a harmless flutter. So we are really being influenced by this argument, yeah? The writer wants us to think about our own behaviours and to change them in some way. So thinking about the why shows you've thought about the purpose of the text. It's really, really significant. Okay, go back to your answers, make any changes you need to, send them my way. Thanks, guys.